Hey guys, it's Em, and today we're going to be talking about an actually recent game. Rarity here, to be honest. Space Marines 2. To let you guys in on something, I was really excited for this game. I fell in love with the Warhammer IP a few years ago, to the point where I've watched a ton of videos on it, from Bricky and the Body Video of Warhammer. I don't remember his name right now, I'll edit it in later. But there weren't really many games for it I could get into. I know someone might immediately point to the Dawn of War series or the original Space Marines game, but by the time I got into this series, I was on the PS4, where all I could get were games that were Warhammer related, but weren't part of the main universe I was interested in. Things like either of the Necromunda games or Vermintide. Closest I got to a mainline 40k game was Space Hulk, which is a conversation for another time. When this game got announced, trust me, I was counting the days. And now that it's here, I have some things I'd like to say about it. I feel like most of what I've heard about it has been overwhelmingly positive without bringing up any of the shortcomings. I'll glaze it in the places I think it should be glazed, but I also want to bring attention to some little things I wish were a bit different. But that's enough of this. Let's just start.
Marine Squad deployed.
The story here is an excuse for violence to ensue. Basically, the first half you're dealing with Tyranids swarming the planet, then you're dealing with Chaos Marines for the second half, with some little character drama here and there. It's pretty standard, all things considered, but it's a vessel for some amazing set pieces. No matter what Warhammer game I've played, from Hired Gun to this, they always manage to have this grand scale to everything, and this game is no different. This really shows itself while you're just playing the campaign, as they threw in a lot of unnecessary but extremely immersive things while you go through it. Things like seeing other Marines fighting in the background, Tyranids swarming all over the planet, Cadians aiding you in your forces, and those are just some of the smaller examples. But they don't stop there. Even when you're just walking around the hub between missions, you'll see things going on in the background, like Marines talking about current events, or some of the speeches you hear them giving their men before a big fight. Many times I'd stop and listen in, assuming since it's something you can walk past, it'd be a short 4 or 5 line thing. But they'll go off on entire monologues that really grip you into this world, even if you're not a Warhammer fan. Also, there's this little detail that there's 2 campaigns. There's one with Captain Titus, then there's another with another set of Marines. The coolest thing about this is both of these campaigns coincide with each other, showing you how wide the scale is for these conflicts, and that it's more than just a one group mission. Both of these campaigns are fully co-op, by the way, so you and 3 buddies can tear through it all together, and it's really fun. And before I forget, the voice acting overall here is really solid. I don't think anyone fell behind in that department. My only real gripe about the story is it's kinda short. I beat the main campaign while being fully immersed in watching all the cutscenes and overseeing the smaller scenes like speeches in about 2 days. But if I had nothing else to do that day, I probably could have cranked it out in one. The side campaign is a bit shorter, and again, you could probably crunch out all 6 of those missions within a day or so. What is here has been polished to nigh perfection, and I'm not saying they should have bloated the game, but aside from grinding, it's a bit unfortunate you can see all this game has to offer within a day. As Yahtzee said in his new review, it feels like the fluff was taken out so you can only focus on the big core missions. Which is good, but with how fun the game is, I would have liked some more levels to play here. But keep in mind, my main complaint here is the game is so good I wish there was more of it, which is definitely not a bad problem to have.
For the Emperor!
The gameplay here is snappy and fun. It never really feels like it gets old. Like most say, it feels like a PS3 hack and slash type of game, where your big guy tears through everyone else. You got a parry, a dodge, a melee button, and your gun. Those are the main things you'll be relying on, and it just works. The closest thing I could say this game feels like is Evil West, but make Jesse a little heavier and give him better firepower. On top of those base things though, you have multiple classes and weapons. All classes play pretty differently and offer unique options in combat. Things like the Bulwark being the frontline tank of the group, the Heavy being able to melt huge enemy swarms, and the Sniper being able to cloak and damn near instantly destroy bigger threats. Every class feels like they have their own role on the team, and nobody's left behind. One thing I don't like about the discourse of this game is people tend to end it at that, letting people think that this game is an easy power fantasy you have fun with and then it becomes boring. I might agree with that point if it's on easy, but on normal and especially hard or above, this game will kick your ass if you're mindlessly clicking through it. If your parries or dodges aren't on point, normal enemies will chew through your health bar. Bosses will flatten you within seconds, and even the little guys, if numerous enough, can easily kill you. This game has a skill ceiling you can learn for sure. It's nice to feel yourself get better at this game and have it pay off immediately. with you being able to get out of situations you may have initially thought impossible when you just started playing. If you ask me if I imagine these big ass Space Marines pulling off perfect dodge barrel rolls a year ago, I'd probably stare at you sideways, but it grew on me the more I played. What also isn't mentioned is how grindy the second campaign can be. You see, the gear you start with is fine on normal difficulty, but once you go higher, there isn't much skill can do for you unless you and your team are gods, as they expect you to have higher level gear, meaning you'll run the same 6 co-op campaign missions over and over again to level up your characters and weapons. Again, gameplay's fun and I don't mind doing that for now, but it would be nice to have more than 6 missions to do over the course of the literal days it would take to max out everything. You get meaningful upgrades to your weapons and gear, and they're modular by the way, so at least that's not part of the problem, but a bit of level variety would have been nice. A bigger but more fixable issue is the bugs. By the time you're watching this, it's very possible they'll be patched out, but some of them are really annoying. It's not like Fallout 76 on launch where they'll constantly show up in average play and pull you out of what you're doing, but when they do happen, they tend to force an entire game reset or something else drastic. The main bug most will tell you about is trying to stay connected to your squad. Oftentimes, the loading screen will just freeze and you'll be forced to restart your game to get it to work again. While I was recording for this video, I had an insane bug where all my controls locked up, and all I could do was walk around until I completely died and respawned. I'm sure there's more, but those are the main ones that have happened to me so far. This is more of a nitpick, but the last thing I feel that should be tweaked revolves around the finishers. Currently all they give you is 1 bar of armor, but I sorta wish they functioned like Doom glory kills and gave you a bit of ammo as well. If not just as an overall update for everyone, at least make it a perk. Heavies and snipers become nigh useless when they run out of ammo, and having an active and more so normal way to replenish it without hoping you reach a checkpoint or find a small ammo box would be nice. Throughout the campaign, I'd say the enemies you face are quite varied. Due to the whole game being kinda short and you replaying co-op missions many times thing, it might not feel like it, but there's enough enemies to comfortably fill out this game. As I said earlier, during the first half you're fighting Tyranids. You start off with the little toe biters, but then you go a bit higher and you run into the heavies that brandish weapons, and the snakes that'll try to grab you. Then you go higher from there and you run into the lictors and zoanthropes. Then you get to the boss monsters, to which we end up getting the Neurothrope, the Carnifex, and one mission exclusive boss fight against the Hive Tyrant. It's enough where there's variety, but not enough where you feel overwhelmed trying to remember how every enemy functions. They also have really clear and good telegraphs. I can't think of many times I was playing this game and I've said what's hit me, as the movements seem to be purposely big to let you know when they're coming. It's kinda nice to see after playing games like Elden Ring, especially so in the DLC, where a lot of enemies had tons of delay moves just to throw you off. Or the thing was so big it was difficult to see the telegraph of what they were doing. They're all really fun to engage with, and I can't think of any complaints I really have about any of them. The Tyranids specifically even have a mechanic I think is really cool, and that's whenever a big Tyranid dies, all the smaller ankle biters will immediately fall as well. This leads to you wanting to prioritize certain targets in fights, and will allow you to pull off some pretty clutch plays to save yourself or others if they're in danger. Then we gotta talk about the second clump of enemies, because we aren't done yet. As I said earlier, halfway through the game you end up fighting Chaos Marines. The Thousand Sons and Sneetch's boys to be specific. I hope I'm saying that right. Kinda sounds like a Dr. Seuss character, but I tried. And they're quite a big step up from the early game Tyranids. The small enemies they have for them are some heretic Imperial Guardsmen and some little Chaos Demons. A step above them and who you'll be normally fighting are the Chaos Marines, usually armed with flamethrowers or normal blasters. A step above them are the special types, where we get heavy Chaos Marines and Chaos Mages. The final step is the bosses, where they also get 3 like the Tyranids: Hellbrutes, a Helldrake, and the final boss. The forces of Chaos aren't as numerous as the Tyranids, but they hit a lot harder. Many of them have guns and will flat out destroy your health bar should you be unprepared. But they also lead to some of the most exhilarating close quarter combat fights. Due to them being able to use the warp to their advantage, pretty much everyone aside from the small soldiers can teleport and attack you from close range, forcing you to quickly recognize what they're doing and counterattack. Hellbrutes probably have the coolest variation of this in my opinion, as seeing something that big suddenly warp out of existence just to pop out in front of you is sick, for lack of a better word. It's part of the reason they ended up being my favorite enemy and boss in the game. The team did really good with all these guys when it comes to details and balancing, to the point I don't even have much to say about them.
Charge!
You can also customize your Marines for the second story, and it's pretty in-depth. For your normies who don't really know Warhammer lore, there's a lot of color and pattern options to play around with, so you can make whatever badass Marine you want. And for the lore fans out there, you can play as a good clump of your favorite chapters. I immediately got the Salamanders, the Blood Ravens, and the Imperial Fist colors personal. And it's supposed to only get better, as they said they'll add all the chapters within time. I may sound like a weirdo for this, but deep down, I'm really hoping they add my favorite chapter, the Obsidian Glaives. I can't wait to see the comments on this video after that statement.
Our faith holds us.
This might seem like a short or shorter video of mine, but really it's just because this game's a lot simpler than many of the others I talk about. And that's part of its charm. We've gotten so many things like grand plots with twists and turns, Souls-likes, or the like. It's nice to go back to a simpler time every once in a while where you could just feel like a cool guy doing cool things with your friends. I frankly loved this game, and seeing how they plan on continuing updates for it with a year one roadmap, I feel like even better things are to come in the future. And I'd recommend you give it a try. If not now, when the price drops. And if you're just a Warhammer fan in general, I feel you can't miss out on this. But I feel like I've said my piece. What do you guys think? As always, as long as you're respectful, I'm glad to discuss with you in the comments. And with that, I've been M, and I am out.